check it out. It's a Canadian silver quarter from 1952. Here it is here. Pretty cool. So, I saw this really good video from Numberphile, and it got me thinking about theories of economics, theories of money, and suppressed ideas. So, I'm sure everybody has heard of the Pythagorean theorem. You have to learn it in like high school geometry and whatnot. And one reason why I think that there are a lot of people who have trouble with math is because of the notations and symbology we use, right? Stuff in nature, right? You look at nature and people try and use math as a way of describing it with letters and numbers. So here is a very simple way of understanding the Pythagorean theorem, right? So here you have a right triangle, right? You take a right triangle. You make a square on every side, right? So all the Pythagorean theorem says is that the volume of the bigger square is the sum of the volumes of the other square. This right here is the Pythagorean theorem. That's all it is. You take a right triangle, you make a square, right? And the bigger square equals the volume of the two smaller squares. That's it. And of course we use all this numerology and use words like Pythagorean theorem, right? They use words that are, it's all Greek to me, right? Well, they use Greek, right? So anyhow, there's actually a cult of Pythagoras, right? What happened in ancient Greece was this kind of information was not known to the public. So it was kind of like an Illuminati, quote, Illuminati type organization, or the Freemasons, right? Where they had some knowledge. They had some knowledge of math, of how the universe works. This right here is a secret of the universe, so to speak, right? A pie in a circle, right? That's a secret of the universe. That's one of the components of the universe. It's how our universe works, right? And if the general public doesn't know that, and you do, you, quote, know a secret of the universe. So this Pythagoras occult sprang up around some of these mathematical concepts that are very basic in high school, but before modern times were like almost magical to people. So, in this cult of Pythagoras, there was a lot of truth in it, right? They knew a lot of things that no one else knew at the time about math, right? However, they also believed some things that were faulty and false. They believed that there was harmony in nature with natural numbers, that everything in nature was composed of either a natural number or a fraction or a ratio of natural numbers. And they also had some other beliefs. For example, they said that you shouldn't eat fava beans. It reminds me of Silence of the Lambs, where the guy wanted to eat liver and fava beans. Interesting, right? That you shouldn't pee towards the sun. Like when you're in the woods taking a pee, you shouldn't face the sun. Well, that kind of makes sense, because if you're doing that, you're momentarily kind of helpless, and if something's coming at you, you can't see the sun's blocking you. So when you're in the wild, pee away from the sun. It's kind of interesting because they throw in these things not related to math. Here's another one. They say you shouldn't marry a woman with gold jewelry. I think nowadays it's the reverse. Because if a woman knows what gold is and has gold jewelry, that's kind of a plus thing. So this cult had some interesting beliefs. And some were faulty, right? They didn't believe in the concept of irrational numbers. There was one disciple of this Pythagoras cult who came up with the idea of irrational numbers, like the square root of 2, right? It goes on forever, right? Like, or, you know, pi, right? It goes on forever. Well, he said that, and this cult was so threatened, they took him out to the sea, like on a boat trip, and he never returned. The guy either swam with the fishies, or they stranded him somewhere. That's how much his new ideas threatened this cult. Now, at the time, this cult was like cutting edge information, right? They knew things about math and nature that most people didn't know. But they had an agenda. They had a rigid form of beliefs. And this guy's irrational numbers threatened their belief system. So they got rid of him, right? At the time, these were probably the greatest minds. I mean, the general population, the whole idea of this Pythagorean theorem was like magic, right? You know, you could do this, whatever. But they had their limits. I've seen that too in academia. I've seen it too with a lot of these economists and whatever, is they have a base of knowledge most of the public doesn't have, right? A lot of these economists know things the public doesn't have. They know things I don't know, right? However, they have their own constraints. They have their own agenda, which means that perhaps maybe there are ideas and solutions that are taboo to them, right? I wonder if there's brilliant minds being stranded on desert islands or are fed to the fishies because they went against the power structure. Like The Flying Machine. I talked about this before, by Ray Bradbury. I think one of the most important short stories I read when I was in school was about how in the Chinese Empire, right, the emperor saw some guy with a flying machine. And he invited the guy to dinner and then killed him because this flying machine threatened the Great Wall. It threatened, here's this great discovery, this great invention. But the guy was snuffed out, right? So I'm just saying, is that I think right now, you know, that kind of thing is probably harder to do. But I think within every cult, you have an agenda and you have certain things you can't violate, right? And I think if you want to really increase your wealth, you have to distance yourself from all cults. Just like the Pythagorean cult could teach you about some of this cool geometry stuff, right? When it comes to irrational numbers, it doesn't compete with them and they don't want to hear it. So when it comes to hearing about the theories of money, a lot of these different, quote, gurus have things they can tell you. But the moment you start talking about irrational concepts, they don't want to hear it. So be a true individual. And don't fall under the spell of any cult. This is your wealth at stake, right? Your time and labor. You worked. And you worked hard for this purchasing power. You need to find a way to preserve this purchasing power, because otherwise someone stole your labor. Now there are many ways to do it, right? Right now, it's a matter of trying to find what are the right ways to do this, because it's always in flux. There's no set formula. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find the irrational numbers of money and finance here. So thanks for watching.